Okay, we're moving on. I went back a slide to go over a slide because there are a couple more other things to talk about before I dive into that piece, into that fashion, the team. I want to talk about some of the misconceptions, and one of the misconceptions that stylists really just spend all their time doing, creative, artistic-y shopping things, right? That's all they do. And, really the success, one of the most important traits that we have, and if you kind of look, there's a strand between, teamwork and written communication skills and visual skills and that self-motivation, people skills, being adaptable, is really just, business acumen, and that they take on every task. They're a master at multitasking, but taking on every task that's going to pay them, right? And keeping track of all those tasks. So really, keeping receipts. I mean, it's literally receipts. Like, what did you spend? How much was mileage? How much time did you spend, tracking packages, or, what's coming in and what's going out, and filing your taxes. All those things are really, really important. And they have to maintain client relationships, right? So those strong people skills. You have to maintain the client relationships, because there definitely is another stylist somewhere that is really ready and willing to take your clients. In the video that you're going to see on the Let's Meet Some People section, it's a stylist roundtable, and assistants, like styling assistants, leave and they go out on their own, and oftentimes they take clients with them. So you need to make sure that you establish relationships. One of the stylists in there talks about who she used to work for and how she had that stylist had that client, and when she went out on her own and started styling people on her own, the first stylist wasn't available, so the client came to her, and now it's her client. So really, those relationships are really really, really important. And you have to have selfless self-promotion. You have to be able to talk about yourself at every stage of the game, and talk about yourself as an expert, right? You are your own business card, and that's part of why having the memorable style is really important too. Okay. So part of what stylists do is they are part of a team. Okay. Part of that team. And there's some specialties in styling, and some of these go together. Some of them are very, very specialized, but it's all about creating that effective image, one that just visually communicates the image that the client wants to portray. And part of those relationships that you're also building is you will be building not just with designers, but you'll be building it with photographers and makeup artists and hairstylists, because they may get to a point where the makeup artist knows somebody that needs a stylist, and they know you, or the photographer has worked with you in the past, so they're able to recommend you or bring you in on a project. So it's really important to be a good part of that team. So let's talk about some of the categories or the specialties in the specialties in styling. And probably with the exception of image management, image consulting, you probably know the others pretty well. But print, it's just going to be fashion magazines, or social media is considered editorial at this point. Newspapers oftentimes are considered editorial, and it's generally, those are used for marketing purposes, for selling something, right, or marketing something. So billboards, advertisements, brochures are all things that print advertising does. And again, that editorial styling is really high fashion, and sometimes it's not even really wearable. Clothing is something that you wouldn't see somebody out on the street wearing, but that editorial styling tends to be more artistic and fashion forward. It just is what it is, right? It's aspirational, right? It's how we want our image to be, whether we ever have that image. I literally have things in my closet that I bought, like, I have a place to wear this to eventually, and it still has a tag on it. But if I get invited to a white party, a formal event, some hot girl stuff, I'm good. I have something in my closet ready to go, right? The other piece is those lifestyles. So advertisement, catalog, stock photography. Those are some of the things that stylists work on as well, right? Generally, when we think about styling, though, we think about the high fashion, the fun stuff. So in the entertainment industry, so character, wardrobing, which sometimes it's called styling, sometimes it's called costume design. So styling for television or movies, advertising, big budget films, movie videos, even for HSN, for home shopping networks, for TV shopping. All of those things are things that stylists have to do on the entertainment side. Also, just for celebrities as they go to events or as they're doing their media appearances, stylists fit them as well. Okay, and we're going to talk about later in a different part of the lecture. We'll talk about image management, image consultants. So we'll talk about personal shopping and styling, but celebrity styling, not for anything other than the celebrity living their own regular life. Image consultant really is just providing clothing accessories for people who wear them in their real life. So we'll talk about that. And then other areas of styling are, runway, food styling. I think we've all become a food stylist now because we take beautiful pictures of our food before we eat it. And then props as well for the entertainment industry. So for fashion and then of course staging for homes too, but that more falls into the interior design, side. So, one of the things that we have to consider is that, stylists who regularly work in print or entertainment diversify and work in other areas in order to keep their paychecks consistent. This really is a gig economy, right? So unless you get a salary position, which we'll talk about salary versus non-salary in a minute, unless you get a salary position, you got to do a couple things. Like you may do some print, some editorial, some lifestyle. You may do some image consulting. You may do some entertainment industry. But very few stylists have one main gig that they just do consistently. Because it is such a gig economy. Now, you may have some. When you get to a certain point, you may get some big checks in there, right? But you may have to stretch them out over long periods of time. Again, in the video, let's meet some people. Law talks about his first big, check, like his retainer. He was like, I thought I made it. And now he's like, that was such little money. So really important. So make sure you watch that video. I hate to say the video is long, but it's worth it. Okay. So some of those specialties. All right. So let's talk about freelance. Let's talk about freelance versus salary. We're going to talk, and I put them this way because they're in alphabetical order. But I'm talking about salary first because salary positions are just much harder to come across. And what a salaried stylist is that's just somebody who works for a company, right? So they may be a stylist that works exclusively for a magazine or exclusively for a company in order to do their in-house marketing. So we'll use Target, for example. Target has in-house stylists. They have folks that are salaried that just help put the clothing together for their web presence and for their social media campaigns and for their print advertisement. Anthropology, like they have stylists that work in the corporate offices that put together their looks again for their website, and sometimes they may assist with the visual team in putting looks together, how things are gonna go in the store. But salary stylists, they most often work for a magazine or retailer as part of its full-time staff. And a stylist for a fashion magazine may be known as a fashion editor, and for a retailer, that title is often called a fashion director. And there's pros and cons of being salaried. Of course, the pros are steady paycheck and benefits and job longevity. So you don't have to worry about where your next check is coming from. Whereas freelance, that's a whole other story. The cons, and one of this probably is not a con, it isn't a con. Hopefully you picked a company that aligns with you stylistically, right? Aligns with your sense of style. But you just don't get to choose the jobs. You don't get to choose who you work with, right? You don't even get to pick the clothes. Like, you just get to put the clothes together. The buyer is the one that picks the clothes. And you just kind of get sometimes the editorial director, there's a whole host of, if you take careers in fashion, there's a whole host of people on the retail side who help make the selection, but the stylist's job is to put those pieces together for their advertising campaign, or their social media presence, their online presence, their brochures, whatever their print collateral is, because sometimes collateral images that they put in the store. So those are some of the cons. You don't get to, pick and choose. So, if you work for a department store, probably you're only going to work with what's older department store. If you work for a magazine, you have some more choices on fashion stories and shoots that appeal to different target audiences. But there's benefits. I think there's always benefits to having a job with a salary. Now, the great part is as a salaried employee, you can still freelance on the side. And you have some cachet behind your name, right? You can say, I'm a stylist for X, and then you're styling. Folks inside are doing image consulting on the side, because the image consulting you can do at the time that works for you outside of your working hours. So those are the differences. Okay. Freelance on the other side, if you see, there's a lot of pros and quite a bit of cons as well. But, freelance stylists work for clients that hire them. So part of the thing is they got to go out and hustle to get the people. They're self-employed. They're in control of their own careers. They have to find their own jobs and handle their own marketing and do their own networking and develop their relationships and be responsible for all the aspects of managing their business, which includes, expenses and paperwork and taxes. And, they don't have assistants, or they do have assistants, but not the same way that a salary stylist would. So, oftentimes freelance stylists have agents, especially when you get to a higher level. Like, once you have some name, some celebrity clients or some people with high net worths, you are able to hire actually an agent will seek you out to help you find clients, or vice versa. In the video that we watched, the video that's in the Let's Meet Some People, one of the stylists there is one of my favorites. His name is Jason Bolden. I love what he does. We have the same aesthetic. I say it that way. But he styled some well-known people, and he put out in the universe that he wanted to style Serena Williams, and he just said it. That's my dream person to style. And right now he styles Taraji P. Henson and Ava DuVernay, who's a director. He has some very well-known African American women clients, and he said he wanted to style Serena Williams, and she's like, sure. For one thing, and now they work together all the time. So he put it out in the universe. That's a pro. It's a con though too. It's a pro that you get to pick and choose who you want to work with, and you have an agent. You have some creative control. You work with a variety of designers, and you're willing to manifest, right? You're willing to manifest your own destiny in there. Okay. Cons though, no steady paycheck, right? There could be long lapses between jobs. You may be worried about finding work, and you can struggle to make a name in the industry. So oftentimes as a freelancer, especially when you're starting off, you're working as someone's assistant and you're still working a retail job, or you're still doing something else, because it's really just not sustainable when you first start to, unless you're independently wealthy, to maintain that lifestyle. Okay. All right, so here is an image of, actually Taraji P. Henson is in this image. That's one of the people that Jason styles. But in this sense, these are fashion stylists that work for the entertainment industry, and both of these are for TV shows. Jason doesn't style the show. There's actually a costume designer that designs for both, that sources of the garments for both of these shows. But, these would be entertainment, definitely entertainment styling. Okay. All right. So this section of the lecture is now. We're going to move on to the next. We're going to go dive deep into what fashion styling entails in the next part of the lecture.